going on, everyone? This is David Schomer from the Firing the Man podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to create a podcast for beginners. I'm going to lay out 8 pro tips that we used when we were laying out our podcast. So, number one, you want to define your niche. And for Firing the Man podcast, we're heavily focused on e-commerce, and that's our niche. That's our audience. That's who we want to speak to. And so, I think this is really important for the steps that follow. Because that'll inform the name, the guests, a lot of things. So the next thing is plan your podcast format. So do you want to have guests on? Do you want to be solo? Do you want to do it with a partner? These are things that are really important to think of on the front end. I would say with the Firing the Man podcast, about half of our interviews are with Ken, myself, and a guest. And the other half are Ken and I sitting across the table discussing a pertinent topic. And so that seems to be a good fit for us. And for those of you who are thinking about doing a solo podcast, you're better than I am. I think that would be challenging. However, I have not tried it. So the next thing is name your podcast. And the way we went about this was we made a long list of ideas. And under that list, we checked, is the URL available? Could we get this on social media? And we went to USPTO to see if there's a trademark on the name. I was shocked at how many names were already taken. And so this is something, as you're going through the idea, this is a step you do not want to forget, because what you don't want to do is start building an audience and then in a year or two have some sort of cease and desist letter show up at your front door because you are impinging on someone's trademark. So the next thing is get the right equipment. And through this video series, we've outlined what type of mics and headphones that we like to use. However, don't let this stand in the way of getting your podcast started. So there are expensive mics, there are less expensive mics. And this is something that, you need a mic, and that's about it. There are free recording platforms that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but get the right equipment. And personally, I love having headphones. It gives you the feedback and lets you know when you're too far away from the microphone. And so that's been a good setup for us. Recording, we record everything on our laptops. And so that is really not that big of a deal. There was no additional expense. We already had that. I run a MacBook Pro, and so I'm using GarageBand. However, there are some other free platforms out there for PC users. And so this is something, just have a game plan for how you're going to record this. The next piece is editing. And this is something, the first 10 episodes of the Firing Man podcast, I edited myself, and they were okay. If I'm being honest, it's definitely a skill set. It's something that you can learn and develop. Obviously, it's an audio experience, and so you want to edit out all the ahs and ums and long pauses. And so I think it's definitely doable right out of the gate. However, there are some really talented people out there that can help you sound professional and take that editing off of your plate. And so consider both. I think it would be helpful to at least try to edit one of them. At least that way you know how to better manage your editor should you go the alternative direction. The next is hosting and publishing. We use Buzzsprout, and that publishes across like 14 platforms. That would be iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, and a whole bunch of others. And so that's nice. We upload it once. We write our description and title once. And what Buzzsprout does is it broadcasts that on all the hosting stations. Now, what I would tell you is that 95% of all of our downloads come from Apple and Spotify. And so if you did not want to go through a hosting platform, just publishing in those 2 spots would likely get allow most people to find you. Then the last thing is promote your podcast, and this can be done through social media. One thing that we've started doing lately, which we really like, is when we have guests on, as a courtesy, we will provide them with some images and some videos, and we'll tag them in all of our posts. And oftentimes what they will do is repost. And we're basically taking their audience and cross-pollinating with our audience, which we really like. And so anyway, if you follow these 8 steps, I think this will get you off the ground and started with your own podcast. So thank you for tuning in. If you got some value out of this, be sure to stay tuned for future episodes. Also, it really helps the podcast to like and subscribe. It's a zero-cost way to support the show. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.